um, this is the first time I'm doing this, and it's very, very ad hoc. I made the decision today, so I decided to try this out, and yes, so I don't have a reliable setup yet, but hopefully, um, if I'm still alive by this time, um, next week I will have like a better setup, so I'll be able to um, do this more diligently. With that out of the way, yes. So the a lot of things have happened in Africa and for Africans in the diaspora as well over the last 1 week. So yeah, we should get to discuss these things. At least the ones that are on my radar, and this is what I intend this to be going forward. Um, the things that appear on my radar will be noted throughout the week, and my thoughts, reactions, things along those lines will be just added by the time we are doing this weekly. So yes, I need a few moments to just take some notes, and then we can get to the first series of events. Yeah. I don't even know. Okay, I can share my screen with. This is the first time I'm using this, so yeah, I'm a newbie. Um, yeah. So I am, I am the only one here, right? So basically, I'm talking to myself, um, which is well, I won't necessarily say weird, but it's a new terrain. Um, yeah, where do I start from? We've had a lot of political incidents this week. There have been multiple elections in Cameroon, in Tanzania, in Ivory Coast. Um, there's another one I'm missing, but yeah, and all these have uh, ended up with. I mean, same old across Africa, right? But there's more to it, and finally, so yeah, what was I saying? Um, yeah, I want to share my screen. Where is this? Um, where is this? Where is this? You can't share a private window. That's crazy. Uh, okay, I suppose I will just share my screen one by one. I mean, based on the topic. Sorry, I have a runny nose. So so yeah, let's start with Tanzania, right? Um, this woman, she declared herself as the winner, and Africans in Tanzania, they took to the street to protest this. And yeah, similarly in Ivory Coast as well, right? There are apparently people who are still very enthusiastic about the current president, quote and unquote, in Ivory Coast, as you can see from this headline. Um, yeah, there is also that of Cameroon, right? The atrocious event. Um, so, what is the deduction that we can take from all this? Um, there's a playbook now. The ruling class, they figured out how to perpetuate their rule, to stay in power for as long as possible, right? And mind you, when I say the ruling class, I'm generalizing. It's all encompassing. It is the entire power structure, even leading all the way to like the oppositions. I mean, the prominent oppositions in Cameroon, for instance, right? I chuckled when I realized that the leading opposition to the Biya regime, at least in this on the ballots, was or is 78 years old. That's the people that's the person the people of Cameroon have been forced to choose versus Pobia. So that says a lot. There is a popular meme, or just yeah, I saw a tweet from Shivambu, right? The gerontocracy thing, and this is quite instructive. It is instructive in the sense that now it is at least it is apparent, right, to um, to any keen observer that the status quo, um, there's a playbook to preserve it. There is, and this this ruling class, they are ready to consistently retain their hold. If Tinubu, for instance, in Nigeria is not going to work, then we find, um, they find an equally palatable candidate for them as the backup option in the opposition. And this setup, this approach has ensured that we Africans we are constantly hoodwinked, right? We are constantly um, our energy, our craving for change, it dissipates in the sense that um, or like it's spent wrongly. Maybe not necessarily that it dissipates, but we spend it wrongly because we don't have like a comprehensive understanding of the system that we are battling against, right? It goes beyond the leadership class. It is structural. It is the state itself. Uh, Cameroon is not a legitimate state. So also is Nigeria, right? Nigeria is not legitimate. Um, Uganda is not. Tanzania is not. No African state is. Um, and I don't think this should be controversial to anybody, right? When I say these states are illegitimate, right? Like, what do I necessarily mean? I mean that we, the inhabitants, we, the people of these states, right? The, we did not necessarily, and or let me put it this way: the state has not earned its legitimacy, its monopoly on violence, its taxation and exploitation of the natural resources, things along those lines, right? The state has not, it didn't voluntarily get the endorsement to exploit the resources or to monopolize arms, violence from we the people. It's let me give the instance of Cameroon. Let me use the instance of Cameroon. It is a state that was created by colonial people, right? Imperialist. The state was created by them and imposed. And when they left, right, the structure of the state, the armed forces, the police, the internal policing instruments, these things were retained. So basically, the new ruling class just transitioned and like took over the reins from the colonial masters, practically speaking. So nothing necessarily changed. And if you consider the original sin, which is, and by the way, I'm writing a pamphlet on just the negativity of our independence, how it has created a situation where we are sort of permanently colonized, um, because it has found its like an equilibrium, a way to just maintain this perpetual exploitation. But maybe another time I will get into that. But as I was saying, right, the state is illegitimate. All African states, all, you there is no, even the likes of Liberia and Ethiopia, and this again I talked about them in this pamphlet. I'm not done yet, so yeah. um so even those quote unquote states that were not colonized, right, in Africa, they also, for one reason or the other, in the case of Liberia, right, like it did the colonization, the settling, the um, um, what are they called again? The Congos. That's the term used for the those ex-slaves, whether they came from America or freed slave in on the continent, that settled in Liberia. They basically monopolized power to the detriment of the natives, the indigenes of the land of Liberia, and Ethiopia as well, right? Like it was a colonial imperialist outfit, stole a lot of native lands, the lands of Somalis, Eritrea. Yeah, but so none of these states have actually created this kind of social contract between, or a kind of social contract between the people that are within it and the state itself. So, and if the state has this structural defect, right, there is only one way to maintain the fiction, the status quo. Um, Consistent application of force, because um, apparently the coloniality of the state will always create contradictions that will just widen and become more profound as time goes on, right? And if these contradictions are getting worse, how do you retain your control when you do not have any form of legitimacy? You do that by resorting to violence from time to time. Obviously, you don't want to. I mean, if it is avoidable, then you try to avoid it. But when push comes to shove, you revert to the application of violence. So, and that's what we are seeing in Cameroon, in Tanzania, in all these places. Right? There's a playbook. They all know that the state itself um, is not designed, is not for the people within it. So like it is not built for them. It is built basically to extract resources, exploit the resources, whether it is labor or natural resources or the land, whatever, right? And yes, the a few people will monopolize this. At least the surplus from this, the vast majority, and yes, and the people can do whatever they like. So that's the arrangement. So anytime the people feel these things, because these things create contradictions, these things, I mean, people's situations deteriorate. They might not necessarily be able to place it. They might just see it as, oh, this leader, this terrible leader, Bobby has been there for an astronomical amount of time, so he's definitely is probably is responsible for these things, and in a way, right, is an agent of the situation. So rightly, people rightly point fingers at him and his ilk, right? But it is not the full picture, right? And that is where we keep messing up. That's what we keep missing, and that is why we've not had a revolution, pretty much, in a very long time, right? No genuine political revolution has occurred on this continent, and that's why we are seeing um, the 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 situation today, how we are seeing trouble everywhere, right? We are seeing problems. We are experiencing Africans, right? We this is the situation right now is so terrible, so terrible. And the reason why is because the contradictions are getting worse and worse. But in the absence of revolutionary thinking, we can't exactly articulate, or let me say, place where the issue lies. So in the case of Cameroon, the issue is, the root of the problem is that the state itself, right, needs to be uh, revolutionized. For lack of a better word. So in essence, what that means is that everything must be scattered. Power must be devolved. People must come together to create a new establishment. And this establishment must get the consent of the people. That is the, and it even goes beyond that, right? Like, after doing that, you need to contend against external interest. You need to maximize. You need to worry about economics. You need to worry about resource exploitation, things along those lines, right? And in in essence, right, you and what I'm trying to basically say is that even when the state is properly formulated, right? And it has the right foundation. It still needs to be tied with an African solidarity. So what that entails is Pan Africanism. I do not necessarily need to get into the nitty gritty, but basically this is not. I do not plan to do and eclosion of Pan Africanism today. Let's suffice it to just say that what is required pretty much is that a political revolution has to happen across the board, across Africa. So, well, I mean, hopefully, right, if I'm still alive um, in subsequent days, weeks, we would flesh this out more. In the for today, let's just go with the crux, the summary, which is until these current states are dismantled, and we create new ones, new states that have the consent of the people. That is when we can begin to know peace, justice, prosperity. That is when the electoral process will be fair, because again, the current state incentivizes this kind of behavior: centralization, holding on to power, monopolizing the resources. In fact, it's even the people that can monopolize the resources. Those are the people that will get to the very top. The people who are, whether consciously or otherwise, the people who are able to aggregate the resources at the expense of the vast majority of Africans, right? These are the people who are destined to get to the leadership position in the Africa of today. Again, because of the structure of the state, it is the people who are cutthroat, ruthless, relentless, heartless, devious. These are the people that this system will consistently produce, because the system is colonial, and a colonial system is is exceedingly exploitative. So it means that the resources are not being extracted, used for the benefit of the vast majority of the people. So it is the people who can basically play this game and play it well. Um, these are the people who find themselves in the leader, who will be calling the shots, who are the commanding heights of the economy and the state itself, right? The people who will be in control are those cutthroat types. So what it means is that until we dismantle the coloniality of the different states that we found ourselves in as Africans, until we realize that, oh, we are not, I'm not necessarily a Nigerian, you are not necessarily a Cameroonian, until we all as Africans realize this and we begin to, wait, I just realized that there's somebody here. Uh, who is watching? Anyway, can you give me a sense of whether you are listening or okay? I'll just continue. So yeah, until the vast majority of us have this revolutionary awakening, until we realize that I share. Okay, yeah, cool. So until yes, until as Africans in general, we come to this realization, um, we can't make any progress. I wrote an article this week. Um, let me share that. So I called it the beta lesson, right? There is a famous AI researcher that wrote um, of the beta lesson in AI research, um, making use of computation. It's more efficient. It has consistently produced better results than application of just human ingenuity directly to the various AI algorithms, right? Just sheer computation has produced better results over the years. So, yeah, in the same vein, right? Like as a society, as a people, as Africans, there's a bitter lesson also for us. We as Africans, we are already, whether we like it or not, right? We are tethered to the society we found ourselves in. There's no escape. Maybe a few of us can escape this reality. Um, but the vast majority of Africans they are stuck. And if the society is not working, there can be no um, um, for the individual, right? There can be no meaningful existence, especially when the society, as African societies in general, like in terminal decline today. So when you have such a scenario, um, a reality, it is the first duty of all well-meaning Africans to prioritize their society at uh, even at their individual expense, right? It might seem irrational for people, but in a way, it is actually the rational thing because, as I said here, right, a man, um, how did I even put it? Yeah, I said the society is of utmost importance to man if they are to amount to more than just mere existence, right? Um, Man alone can live, but cannot matter. So, if you just want to live as a person, as an individual, you are good. Maybe you will somehow live and be able to figure out a way to uh, make do with the current reality and as it continues to degenerate. But if you aspire for more, if you if you want your existence to count for something, right? You then it has to be in relation with your society. And so if your society is now in a terminal decline, that means you can't basically uh, achieve much until you can't basically thrive, for lack of a better word, until you do the needful and or at least apply yourself as much as you can to help the society, avoid or reconstitute the society. That's actually the apt word for what I have in mind, right? So the society needs to be rebuilt, basically. And I used this analogy of putting the cat before the horse. Obviously, right? Like this analogy might not be very relatable to a lot of us as Africans because horses and cats were not really a thing culturally in our societies. But basically, right, if you try to imagine it, right? And as this picture denotes, you have the the people, for whatever reason, maybe the horse is not walking, or they are pushing the cart, pushing themselves. But conventionally, normally, it is the horse that is meant to be doing the pulling, right? Moving the movement, forward movement. It is the us that is the responsibility of the us, and that is what a society is, for all any man. The society is meant to pull man forward, and so basically, if you now put yourself ahead of the society, right? Like, you are basically, yeah, you are um you are just repeating the um what a lot of people have tried to do. If you get what I mean, and this is what I mean by it. This is a bitter lesson, right? Like, because a lot of people, in different generations, they've just um try to do what they think is rational. So puts a lot of precious time and effort in just the pursuit of their individual progress, and it has never amounted to much, in the grand scheme of things. So, when we are, more and more of us need to realize that. So yeah, I says, the closing paragraph was: man is bound by their society. It is the laboratory nature has granted them, the primary space where meaningful life can be lived. So, however gifted they are, they cannot leapfrog the decay of their society. They cannot separate themselves from it. And given this eternal reality, their first duty is to, especially if their society is in terminal decline, if it is declining, exponentially as African societies are today, uh, the first duty is to spend all their energy, right, however they can, to try to reconstitute it, and to try to identify exactly what is wrong, and apply themselves to solving the issues. Uh, so if they neglect this, they are just basically guaranteeing that the decline will continue. And it is not only the society's decline, it is also their decline. So yeah, and I obviously I'm not oblivious of or oblivious to the fact that um, it is not a straightforward or easy thing, and believe me, I'm facing, um, I'm experiencing some of the consequences, already. Um, this is it's economically, um, just socially, it is it is it is not a non-trivial thing to, like, do, but yeah, those who get it, sha, basically. um yeah, so that is that with about the political situation. There is, in summary, to summarize it, there is this internal contradiction that will keep getting worse and worse because of the structure of the states that we Africans have found ourselves in. These states were colonial constructions. They were never built with Africans for Africans. And the people who took charge after the colonial masters, quote unquote, left, also just transitioned. I mean, they became managers of the system. Nothing changed. The state still doesn't have the legitimacy that is it needs to like be able to thrive. It doesn't have the consent of the governed. It is super extractive, exploitative. It doesn't prioritize it to it, and because of its coloniality, right? It wouldn't. It's structurally designed so as not to prioritize the interest of the people. So even if we get a very credible, uh, reliable leader miraculously elected across the board, or let's say in a few African states, nothing significant will change until the coloniality of the system itself is destroyed. And to do that, you have to have a revolutionary ideology. So, in essence, right, for the status quo to change across the board in Africa, we pretty much need revolutions. We need a socio-political revolution, and until the people, obviously, the people, not everybody will come to these truths at the same time, right? It is it is it is a chain reaction, for lack of a better word. Maybe it starts slowly, and there are a lot of people who are very much aware of this reality, and they have this revolutionary fervor. So, in essence, right, um, until the fervor reaches a critical mass, when a more and more people have concluded and have they've realized that the only way to redeem ourselves, to basically help ourselves and Africans at large, is to embrace revolution as the way forward. Yeah, nothing will change. We'll just keep repeating the the current reality. So that's that about the different elections: Cameroon, Tanzania, Ivory Coast. Yeah, and we'll see a repeat of that. And even the coups, right? The coups as well, right? Before I forget, even the in Madagascar there was a coup, um, based on the protest of the people. Again, because the people are not, uh, they do not they do not see the all-encompassing problem, right? They attribute the problem to just the president or the agent of the coloniality of the system, right? In Madagascar, they have been able to successfully chase away the current president and the military people they've taken over, right? Again, in the absence of a revolutionary spirit and a revolutionary political force, right? The military, the opportunists, all these people, they will just again repeat the the colonial state, the colonial reality, the architecture is there. So it's until you dismantle it, nothing will happen. So there have been talks of coup in Nigeria. We've had coups in the AES countries, Burkina Faso, Mali. What's the last one? Niger, right? We've had military coups there, but again, nothing. It won't change any the bottom line. Um, Historically, we've always experienced military coups in Africa, and not only in Africa itself, right? Like I do not necessarily um, I do not necessarily mean that there is no role for the military in a political revolution, or or a role for application of force, because power a lot of time needs to be seized, to be up for revolutionaries to be able to like apply and use power for their revolutionary purposes, right? So so there's a role, there's a place for the armed struggle. Uh, but as Mao puts it, right, the politics must control the gun. The gun can or should never control politics. So in that sense, right, the military coups that we are seeing, they must be the expression of the political revolutionaries, right? I, I don't know if that makes sense, but in the absence of that, right, it is same old. So yeah, that's basically um, the things I have to say on the the election crisis across the board this week. The other the other interesting thing that appeared on my radar is the Dangote's I said the 15% import tariff that the Nigerian government um just um what's the word? The Nigerian government just signed into the law. You should get what I mean. Basically, um, what's again? It seems like I keep coming back to just the coloniality of the states across Africa on the continent, right? Um, this is another typical example because it seems it is just unavoidable. Like, it dictates all our material reality, um, everything, the the relationship with the means of production, the food we eat, the energy we consume, the lack of infrastructure, um, the terrible state of welfare, everything, right? So, but specifically, this Dangote matter, this Dangote issue, um, I've seen different school of thoughts. Those who acknowledge the nepotistic nature of this, and but say that it is only reasonable because of the financial investments. That's if, but it is apparent, or it is most likely the case that Dangote sponsored this like regulation. So, but yeah, I've seen that school of thought, and I've seen those who like this article, right? That who vehemently oppose and say this is so wrong, this is so yeah. So the way I see it is this: if it is the state that is refining this fuel, and as a result, right, it needs to be able to protect the refining that is just gathering steam, then that makes sense. At least we know that eventually the state is going to, when the value accrues, and the value will be equitably redistributed to like the people. Now, if it is a single individual or a cabal or a set of elites, right? This is a different ball game. It means that the state is not only incentive or trying to protect refining, right? It is basically subsidizing, or the people are basically subsidizing refining for a group of elites or a single person, whatever the case is. And for what purpose, basically? If the people are subsidizing these things, or in the case of the refining of crude in Nigeria, if the people are subsidizing Dangote, and that's basically what the tariff means, right? Like, because I don't need to get into like the nitty gritty, but yeah, if the people are subsidizing this, is it that at the end of the day, the fuel will become cheaper for the people? Okay, let's initially try to support the um, this enterprise of Dangote. Oh, does it mean that down the line, 5 years time, 10 years time, 15 years time or whenever, right? It becomes a, a, a the cost benefit is there for Nigerians or people within the Nigerian border. This doesn't appear to be the case, right? It's not the case. That's basically it. It is not going to happen. So that's not what this regulation will create. Again, you can read this article and maybe I can add a few more if you need to um, brush up on what exactly is going on. But my thinking is just that until again the state itself is redesigned, restructured so that the essence of it is to pursue collective prosperity for the vast majority of Africans, people versus a selected few, right? We will just keep seeing the manifestation of the coloniality of the state in different situations, different scenarios. So, and that this is a specific manifestation, but we can point to a thousand others. So, yeah, I think for being the first time I'm doing this, and this is honestly very ad hoc. I decided to I decided just this afternoon to try this, and so but um subsequent ones should get better. I should be able to do yeah, I don't know. We'll see if I'm still alive by next week and the coming weeks. We'll see if there are like improvements. And I would just like to end on this note. Um, there is this society that I started. So Nubia Society. Um, it is this way to thanks. Nubia Society is the is if you sort of see where I am coming from, right? Check out the I'll share the link in the chat. Check out the manifesto that we we have written, um, and join us. We need to prioritize getting rebuilding the society. None of us can, or like only a few of us can be, and these are outliers. Can really do well in life, given this reality, and it is getting worse. This situation that we found ourselves is worse than what our and this is not to diminish the struggles of our ancestors, but it is worse than what some of our ancestors faced, right? Um, Africans are getting eliminated like in real time in Sudan. They are getting exterminated. Poverty is worsening. And we are Africans, right? And are we just going to live and just pursue our individual progress? And at the end of the day, like I alluded to earlier, it amounts to nothing. It doesn't. It's beyond just your immediate survival. Like it doesn't matter. It doesn't count. So for any African to be able to do really well, eventually we need the society to work. So Nubia Society basically is a society that we've started uh, to redress these things, to take a revolutionary position and to execute. So check it out. If you want to join us, reach out to me. You'll be onboarded. The entire process is listed on our GitHub page. So yeah, hopefully, I'll see you next week. Bye bye.